Hey, Shalom Akim. First and foremost, give all praise and glory unto Yahweh, Bashim Yahushai, Bashim Rachak with us. Double honors unto the elders of Apostle Green Millstone, the elders Green Millstone intercourse. Peace and blessings unto the hopeful elect. There's a serious servants that Yahweh, Bashim Yahushai, serving him in truth and sincerity. Yes, I'm the brother Chayaba from Z-Man's Plain Devil's Camp. Come back with another lesson to his spirit. Yes, this lesson be based off of Mark chapter 13 and 3, which goes into what did Yahushua say our mindsets need to be within these end times. When we hear about wars and seeing nations rising up against one another. So we're about to get the answer. Let's read it. It says Mark chapter 13 and 3. And as he saw upon the Mount of Olives over against the temple, Peter and James and John and Andrew asked him privately, "Tell us, when shall these things be, and what shall be the sign of when all these things shall be fulfilled?" And Yahushua answering them began to say, Take heed, lest any man deceive you. For many shall come on my name, saying, I am a Mashiach, and shall deceive many. So Yahushua is going into how things are going to look like when the end times are here, which we are at the end of the end. We know the end time really started when Yahushua went up on the cross. But we are at the end of the end. That's what the disciples were talking about or wanted to know. It says Mark chapter 13 and 7. So verse 6, for many shall come on my name, saying, I'm a Mashiach, and shall deceive many. Meaning you're going to have false anointed ones coming as if they are of the anointed, which they are not. So they're going to come as if they're speaking the truth, but they're not speaking the truth. They're speaking lies, and shall deceive many. Scriptures also say how the blind shall lead the blind into a ditch. So I said Mark chapter 13 and 7. And when ye shall hear of wars, rumors of wars, be not troubled, for such things must needs be, but the end shall not be yet. So wars must come. That's part of the prophecy that Yahushua spoke about. But it says, be ye not troubled, for such things must needs be, but the end shall not be yet. So Yahushua told us how to react, not to be tripped up over these wars happening. No, but it says, be ye not troubled, for such things must needs be, but the end shall not be yet. Trouble meaning don't panic, as if the climax of War 3 is going to happen immediately. No, we understand, according to the chain of prophecy, that MOTB needs to be mandated first and foremost, the mark of the beast, as the scriptures go into. Until the MOTB is mandated, the end, or the climax of War 3 won't happen, which that's the ultimate war that we're waiting for. Now we can see that the implementation of the mark of the beast is very, very soon. But the point is that we're supposed to be following prophecy. It says, be not troubled, for such things must needs be, but the end should not be yet. So it says, verse 8, for nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. So there's going to be internal wars, civil war. Isaiah 19 goes into how there's going to be Egyptian against Egyptian. And there should be earthquakes in diverse places. And there should be famines and troubles. These are the beginning of sorrows. So these are the beginning of sorrows. When we see all these things, so we went into wars, civil wars, earthquakes, famines, and troubles. These are the beginning of sorrows. So we see many wars happening right now as we speak. Russia, Ukraine, the latest one that's been popping off. And it's in the headlines right now is what the U.S. In Iran, as well as Israel involved in that. The fake Israel, as we know, because we know that those aren't the real people. But the point is that we're seeing war between these other nations, which is part of the prophecy. So read this. It says, nationalnews.com, Iran strikes U.S. military bases in Kuwait and Bahrain in retaliation for airstrikes. So it says retaliatory air strikes target U.S. bases. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC, an army-launched missile, or says an army-launched missile and drone strikes on July 9 against U.S. military bases in Kuwait and Bahrain. According to a statement from the IRGC, the operation began around 4 a.m. local time, hours after U.S. strike, or it says airstrike wave across Iran. The state said, or says the statement said, targets included, it says Arichan and Ali Al Salam bases in Kuwait, in Jufair and Sheikh Isa bases in Bahrain. The IRGC described the action as the first phase of a punitive response to what it called U.S. treaty breaking. It says the Iranian military separately said it struck a Patriot air defense system in Kuwait, an early warning satellite antenna in Qatar, and U.S. fuel storage facilities in Bahrain using attack drones. Social media footage showed a missile hitting the U.S. Fifth Fleet base in Bahrain. According to officials, the IRGC warned that if the aggression is repeated, crushing responses would expand to other U.S. bases in the region. The Iranian military stated it would not allow Washington to achieve its objectives. As the scriptures say, we know, according to Habakkuk chapter 2, that Babylon would spread itself among these other nations. So that's why we see these U.S. bases within these other nations. Because you might ask the question, why does the U.S. have their military bases within these other nations? It's because it's already prophecy. The scriptures say how this place will spread. Is how enlarged it is as hell, and it is as death. And how Babylon the Great, which that's what Habakkuk chapter 2 is going into, Babylon the Great, which is America, how it will raid these other nations. And what the scriptures say, how he heapeth unto him all people in all nations. So that's part of that. So linking it onto prophecy, what this article is going into, is what? It further links of how we're in those times, how we are within those end times that Yahushua spoke about after the disciples asked him. So we know a conflict between America and Iran is bringing, as it says, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, and other nations into distress because American infrastructure is spread throughout that region. So that's why Yahushua said nation would rise against nation. So what's going to be a result of the wars and rumors of wars? Let's go ahead and get Luke chapter 21 and 25. It says, and there should be signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars, and upon the earth distress of nations with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring, men's hearts failing them for fear and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth, for the powers of heaven shall be shaken. So the key point, and upon earth distress of nations with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring. So when you get that word for distress, let's go and get in the Greek. It says sunoke. It says straits, distress, anguish. It says straits, anguish. It also says, i.e., figuratively, anxiety. So that's the current state. That's a good description of the current state that these nations are in. What it says, straits and anguish. As we just read, did a lesson bringing out the scriptures going through how there's no peace among the wicked. There's no peace unto the wicked. So when the wicked is in rulership, there's not going to be any peace. So that's why we see distress among these other nations. And these wars that are happening as we speak is a part of that distress. It also says perplexity. Aporia. It says, quandary, a state of quandary. So when you get quandary, it says a state of uncertainty or difficulty in which a person does not know what to do. A predicament involving confusion, doubt, or indecision. So you're having all these meetings going on about what these nations are going to do. Part of that distress and perplexity, confusion. One minute they're saying that there's going to be peace and how peace deals are being made. And then next second, another attack happens. Why? Because it's part of that distress and perplexity. So it says verse 26 of Luke chapter 21. It says, men's hearts failing them for fear. Men's hearts failing them for fear, and for looking after those things which are coming on earth. For the powers of heaven shall be shaken. So it says Luke chapter 21 and 27. It says, and then shall they see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. Verse 28, and when these things begin to come to pass, then look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh. So the world is in a state of fear, distress, and perplexity. But what Yahushua gives us the order of events of how things are going to look like. Which after these things, Yahushua is going to come back. So read again, it says verse 27, and then shall they see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. Yeah, because Yahushua is going to put a stop to all of this. The distress among these nations by completely destroying the rulership of these other nations and delivering the elect of the nation of Israel and setting them up over these other nations. It says verse 28, and when these things begin to come to pass, and look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh. So there you have it. So Yahushua gives us the spirit to be in. The world is in a state of distress, fear, and perplexity, but the elect aren't supposed to be in the same spirit as the world. No, the elect are commanded to look up by Yahushua. Meaning we're supposed to be looking for deliverance and furthermore thinking with joy as these prophecies come to pass. Because we shouldn't be in fear and distress like these nations are and the world is. No, we're commanded to look up. It says, for your redemption draweth nigh. So looking for the coming of Yahushua, because that's the ultimate thing we're waiting for. The coming of Yahushua. So as we see these things happening, we rejoice. So it says Mark chapter 13. Yeah, so we have the words, the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. Going into how that's going to be the stability of our time. So this word stabilizes us, knowing what spirit we're supposed to be in and knowing what's already prophesied to happen. So it says, so to read it again, it says Mark chapter, going back to Mark chapter 13, let's read verse 32. It says, but of that day and that hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels which are in heaven, neither the Son, but the Father. Take ye heed, watch and pray, for ye know not when the time is. For the Son of Man is as a man taking a far journey, who left his house, and gave authority to his servants, and to every man his work, and commanded the porter to watch. Meaning that Yahushua isn't here on the earth yet. Right now, Yahushua is in the heavens, waiting to come back. It says, who left his house and gave authority to his servants. So his servants are prophets. Every man within his truth is given his duty for Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, and he must do it. And to every man his work, and commanded the porter to watch. So we're watching. It says verse 35, watch ye therefore, for ye know not when the master of the house cometh, at even, or at midnight, or at the cock crowing, or in the morning. Lest suddenly he find you sleeping. And what I say unto you, I say unto all, watch. So we're commanded to watch, because we don't know when Yahushua is coming back. And Yahushua is coming back when we least expect him to come back. So if Yahushua is going to take us unawares, which we have a better understanding of when Yahushua is going to come back, then how much more the world, how much more is the world going to be taken unawares with them being in complete darkness. So the point is that we have the commandment of what we're supposed to be doing, which is what? Watching. Occupy until I come, as the scriptures go into. So I believe it's the point. Lord Zoe brothers out there edified. Yahweh, Ba'asim Yahushai, Ba'ashbakakudash Thumb. Shalom.